Hi, for this video I want to go through several examples of finding missing angle measure or measures in a triangle. Okay, so the one thing that you do want to remember is that the sum of the three angles of a triangle is always 180 degrees. So that's the value that we will be working with. If it helps, you can always draw a picture. Your picture doesn't have to be drawn to scale, but sometimes it just helps to draw a triangle. So for this first one, if I just draw out a triangle, I'm going to label it as A, B, and C, and it doesn't matter where you put your angles or which one is which. They did tell us that a triangle has two angles that measure 63 degrees, so I'm just going to let this one be my 63 degrees, and I'm going to let this one be my 49 degrees. Okay, like I said, it doesn't really matter what your picture has, but a lot of times in geometry it does help you to be able to find a value if you have a picture. All right, so we're going to find angle B. That's the angle that I decided that we are missing. So I could say that angle B plus 63 plus 49 is going to equal 180 degrees. And you don't always have to show up this work. I could just do 180 minus 63 minus 49 and get the answer. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this, but I'm going to just do this algebraically. 63 plus 49 gives me 112. And then to find B, I would just subtract the 112 from both sides. Okay, so our missing angle measure for this one is going to be 68 degrees. So we can say that our missing angle measure is 68 degrees. And like I said, you don't have to draw the picture, but a lot of times in geometry, it's helpful to have a picture to see what you're doing. Okay, for the next one, it tells us that we specifically have a right triangle. So whenever you have a right triangle, that means that one of your angles is 90 degrees. Okay, and it tells us that one of the angles is 36 degrees. And we want to find the third one. So there's a couple different rules that you could use. You could use the same rule that we did before, where we set it up, and let's just label this as A, B, and C. So we could say A plus B plus 90 equals 180. Or if you want to, whenever you're dealing with a right triangle, these two angles here are always going to be complementary. So I could just do a shortcut and say that A plus 36 equals 90 degrees. And the reason for that is 180 minus 90 is just going to give me 90. So I could use that the two angles, the two non-right angles in a right triangle are always going to be complementary, and it just makes the work a little bit easier. So then all I would have to do is 90 minus 36, and I end up with 54 degrees. Okay, so for this one, we do end up with 54 degrees for our angle measure. Okay, moving on to the next one. This time it tells us that we have an isosceles triangle. And if you recall with an isosceles triangle, that tells us that two sides are going to be equal, which means that the angles across from them are also going to be equal. So they told us that the vertex angle is 30 degrees, and we want to find these two down here. So if you wanted to, you could use a variable and say that this is x and then this one is also x. You could use A, B, C like we did up there and just say that they're going to be equal to each other. But if I solve this, I would just have x plus 30 equals 180 degrees. So 2x plus 30 is equal to 180. And then if we simplify this, we can say that if I subtract 30 from both sides, I would get 150 degrees. And then my last step would just to be divide both sides by 2. And so we can say that each of the base angles is 75 degrees. 75 plus 75 gives me 150, and the 150 plus 30 gives me the 180 that I need. All right, and the last one that I have, we actually have a larger triangle with two smaller triangles in there. The 53 degrees is talking about this angle measure here, and the 27 degrees is talking about this angle measure here. Okay, so with this one, I'm going to find x first, and I'm going to use the larger triangle. There's a lot of different ways that you could actually approach this one, so the way that I approach it isn't the only way that you could get the answer. Okay, but what I'm going to use is this outside triangle right here, and so I'm going to talk about this one first. So what I would do is I could say that x plus 64 plus these two angles right here give me the whole angle. So I would add the 53 and the 27 together to get the 180 degrees. So this is one way of approaching this. Like I said, this isn't the only way. I could have started by finding y first and use the the exterior angle theorem, where y is equal to 53 plus 64, and then I could have used this triangle here to find x. So like I said, there's more than one way of doing this problem, but this is how I chose to approach it. So then if I simplify, 53 plus 27 gives me 80, and 80 plus 64 gives me 144. And then if I simplify, I can see that x is equal to 36 degrees. Okay, so that is our x, and now we also need to find y. So to find y, I'm going to use this little triangle here, and I'm going to say that y plus 36 plus 27 is equal to 180. So if I simplify, I get y plus 63 equals 180, and then if I subtract the 63 from both sides, I end up with y is 117 degrees. So like I said before, you could have used the exterior angle theorem. And the exterior angle theorem says that if you have an angle that's on the outside of a triangle, so basically we're talking about this triangle here, the exterior angle is going to be supplementary to this one here. Well, it's always going to be equal to the sum of the two interior angles that are opposite. So I could say that the non-adjacent interior angles, so I could do 53 plus 64. And if you notice, that also gives me 117 degrees. So that's an alternative method of finding y. And then after I know y, I could have found x using that information. So a lot of times there is more than one way of doing something. Hopefully this video helped you to be able to find the missing angles in a triangle. Remember that the sum of the angles of a triangle always adds up to be 180 degrees. And as always, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. If there are additional topics that you would like me to cover, please let me know that as well.